extended the training time to be more asynchronous and extended over a period of time. It's like, this is our training group. We're going to keep on posting, keep on staying, stay tuned in, and people tuned out. So our lesson from there was that it needs, even if it's the launch should be time compressed with clear expectations from the attendees to attend. So that's why we ended up, I think the funders wanted it to be just a replica of what would happen in person, but on the phone. It's like, well, why are you changing a 3-day to 2-day? And then our 2-day, we say 2-day because it happened over a course of 2 days, because we wanted it for people to not be fatigued, but it's generally just 3 hours, like 3 kind of packed hours. We started with 8 and then we pared it down to 6. And then we had a long lunch break, and we lost some people, and the coaches had to nudge them to come back. And they're like, oh yeah, I was coming, but because, life happens, and emails, and I'm sure there are other issues that they're dealing with. So we wanted to keep it 3 to 4 hours. I do think it depends on the facilitators. Some facilitators just take longer and they wanted to do it over 4 hours. But what we do is that I don't think that made it through in this version of the script, but we do have that in the script, is where we say, welcome happens for the first 10 minutes. And in the script, if you go, like we do say, like we're going to take a 10-minute break. We'll see you at this time. And we just wanted to leave some extra time for people to respond, but not wait a whole lot, so that there's always activity that's happening. And when people were delivering content, we put up that setting of only admins could post, so that there's not a lot of sort of noise. Where I'm saying, I'm reflecting on something that you asked 5 minutes ago, because I moved away from my phone. I wasn't able to do that. And I thought that was brilliant. That's something that we just learned in the first iteration of the training. So that really reduced the clutter in the flow, and it makes for like an archival version of the training for people who have been there from the start. Because I think if you join a group later on, I don't think you have access to everything that has happened, so you just sort of join at that point in time. But for the people who were there from the very start, there is something that they can sort of access. And I don't know how familiar you are with WhatsApp, but you can sort of swipe to one side and you can see all the files or images that have been shared, and you can actually save them on your phone, which is something that the coaches worked with them on doing afterwards, saying, just FYI, you realize that you can save all of these on your phone. So that can become like a cheat sheet of what you want to do with this content later on, which was highly appreciated. And then, we shared PDFs of particular things that they could then save on their phone.
That's great. So I'm just thinking about like accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Who was it, the coach or the facilitator? Was there accountability as far as who was participating and how they were participating? The
coach. Yeah, because initially we thought we'll just have one facilitator and the group is going to drive itself. We quickly realized that facilitators should not be worrying if I did not come back from my 10-minute even in the morning, I think when we had, the training is starting in 10 minutes, just make sure everybody, like has their phones charged and all of that. The coach was sort of like the energy driver of the group, and also troubleshooting from a technical perspective. Because, we said, watch this video, and 5 people are like, can't watch it. I can't. Oh, I can. Oh, yes, I got it. And it's like, no, none of that. Like, if you cannot contact the coach, and I think that's when we realized that we have to like stop open posting when we post something. And also, I don't think it's going to be true in the US, but in all of our international training, we're finding that video is as a hassle unless you shared it in advance so that people can download it over time. that's why I think what really worked well, and I think that might also work in, for example, a CASAS training context, is just tips and tricks that can be saved as Google Slides as images. It's like top 3 things to know about testing, or here's a checklist for testing, and then keeping that group open for questions that people have even later on. Other questions? I don't know what we are. Yeah, we have time. What about you, Philip? Let's put you on the spot again. Any thoughts or questions?
I have a question before Philip jumps in. I was thinking about the cultural differences between the individuals with whom you led the training and applying it in the US. Are there differences you think that may need to be focused on when implementing it in the US that may not have had to be a focus? I know I just asked that in a very confusing way.
That's a great question. And I think there's so one of the answers is that the modality of the tool, WhatsApp, that we used has, and I think Jeff asked this question and somebody else too, there's just acceptance of the tool, issues and all. That's just something that people use, so that meeting them where they are is a huge plus culturally. I think whenever we talk about WhatsApp, 5 teachers always are like, but I never want to share my phone number with my learners. And I respect that. I mean, that's and there's a workaround. You can use a Google number and open a WhatsApp business account, and it all works out, which is free. So I mean, I think there's workarounds, but so that was a plus culturally, that they were familiar with the tool. The negative side is familiarity with the tool and differentiating it not as a personal communication context, but like a professional tool for learning. So people did start posting things after the training had ended. The group was kept open, and people did start posting some things that were like, it's raining here, and like, how is your day going? Like, it's not, and we didn't want it to be sort of that open a community of practice. So the sort of hygiene on our end, the data hygiene that we've been using is that for most of the time we try to keep it admin only, and then made it clear a couple of times saying, we're going to keep it admin only. If you want us to be open, only ask these questions. And we realized that we should have set those boundaries and should have been clear about it from the start. And now it's open and people don't post. So I think it's about that switch from personal to professional. That was a shift, but I think now it's working fine. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I have a question. Can I ask, how did you train folks in WhatsApp itself? I mean, ahead of the training? I know that I attended a training here in the States, I mean, online, and I would say probably a good third of the folks didn't know how to use Google, Google Docs. And so the training itself kind of got derailed because of that. And so how did you deal with that?
That's a great question. One of the answers is that we were initially, I'm glad you put Google Docs in there. One of our other ideas was to have people work synchronously on a Google Doc together as they were doing group work. And we realized that it's going to be learning those skills would be hard, and also the modality on the phone, that's going to be hard. In this particular case, I feel like the reason I'm a big advocate for using WhatsApp from a learning circle community with learners perspective, and extending that learning in the classroom, we do that a lot in another project that I direct around learning circles. Like, WhatsApp is used a lot to extend learning for English language learners. But then in this particular case, like, really, it's a tool that once you have it downloaded, you don't have to. So one of the skills that I think sometimes becomes a barrier is this idea of logging and logging out, getting logged out, and then logging back in, which with the foundational digital skills even that people have, that becomes a barrier. You're like, I don't want to go there, not sure if I'm logged in or not. WhatsApp solves for that. Once, if you're using your phone, or even if you have it open on a web app, you don't ever have to log in. And once you log in, it's extremely simple with like 10 things you can do. So from a user interface perspective, it works really well. So training wise, the biggest training barrier I see, Lisa, is for people to actually have had the WhatsApp app downloaded itself. But once they're beyond that hurdle of having, so if you download the app, you don't have to do anything. I mean, it will ask you to put a photo, like a display photo, which is optional probably, and your name, and that's it. Like, then you should be able to, you know, connect with people who are either already on your phone, or if somebody sends you a message, if they have access to your phone number, a group invite, then you can hop onto a group.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
And, you know, I think one of the other things I just wanted to reinforce is what was special in this particular case. And the reason I went with that script idea is that just makes it more tangible, and as you're thinking through a training, because even the way we use it with learners in English language classes, it's very ad hoc. It's like 1 week teacher is gonna, you know, there's 3 videos being shared, another week nothing happens. So there's not a like a set cadence in how we're using WhatsApp groups. This just makes it a little bit more intentional in that way. Any other questions I can answer?
Well, I was glad to see that I had 4 colleagues from Florida on the
That's
on the
great.
call today. And last week I sent out my blast invitation to everybody to join. But, my wife is from Haiti, and we use WhatsApp all the time for doing lessons with people in Haiti and doing projects there. It's a great tool. So I look forward to trying to expand this into our, you know, doing professional development for teachers in the state
Right.
too.
Right.
Mhm.
And, you know, I also think that this training, of course, happened in WhatsApp, but there's other tools as well, depending on what the group is comfortable with. I know teachers that that use Telegram. Signal is supposed to be the most secure tool, which I use with some friends who don't use WhatsApp. So if a group wants to do something in Signal together, I think that's a perfectly valid way of doing it. You might miss out on some of the features just because this is much widely accepted. They just have thought through a lot of features, but that's another thing I would just urge, is something similar can definitely happen in like 4 or 5 other very similar tools that are out there right now that people might have more comfort with if they're uncomfortable with WhatsApp. Great. Well, I'm glad you joined on a Friday afternoon before a long weekend. So really appreciate all of you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you all. We'll have the recording on the website. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.